Hey, first off, I want to thank you guys for the comments that you made on the ringing in the ears video that I did last week. Thank you. Super helpful. What was I going to talk about today? Oh, so ringing in the ears had me thinking about, just recovery things, and often that is it normal question. And it's been really cold here this week, and I still remember it just used to be me. It just used to be normal for me that actually even in the summer I was cold. I was always cold. And then in the winter it was just painfully cold. And I used to spend my life leaning against a radiator. If you are in the US, you probably don't know what that is. So most of the houses I've been in the US have forced air, which is where the air comes through ducts and the walls, and it's warmed, and it's really noisy actually. I don't like it very much when, like that blowing air noise. Anyway, but then a lot of houses in England have radiators which are stuck on the wall and they radiate heat. Clever, yeah. And so in England, when I lived in England, I just spent my life leaning against a radiator, and it was like really uncomfortable because I'd lean against the radiator and the backs of my legs would get burning, they'd get hot, but the rest of my body would still be cold. And so I'd have to, I'd be lean against the radiator with my backs of my legs to the radiator for a couple of minutes, and then I'd maybe turn to get the sides of my legs, and then maybe turn to get the front of my legs, and then it's just so much leaning against radiators. Like, there's so much leaning against radiators in my previous life that I can describe all of the different ways to lean against a radiator, because that's how much of an expert I am about leaning against radiators. How sad is that? And so that's just something that doesn't happen anymore. I never get that cold. And I'm in Colorado and we get lots of snow and we get really cold temperatures. And I never get that cold. I never get as cold as I did by half. It wouldn't occur to me to go and sort of sit in front of the forced air conditioning vent. And that's just one of the small things that's such a blessing. Not to have to walk into, if you go around someone's house, and so I'd go around someone's house and I'd be like, right, first thing I see, I'd be like, there's a radiator over there. I'm going to try and wiggle my way towards the radiator, hoping that nobody notices. Because, you don't want to be the weirdo that just walks into a house and then goes and walks straight to the radiator, especially if everybody else is sitting down the other end of the room and you're just standing, leaning against the radiator. So then I try and, if you're talking to people and you just try and take a couple of steps towards a direction and then hope that they sort of follow without realising that they follow. And so of all the things, my brain was always full of so much stuff when I had an eating disorder that I don't know how I ever spoke to anybody, because my brain would usually be thinking about food. And if it wasn't thinking about food, it was thinking about how can I stand without looking weird when everybody's sitting down? And if it wasn't thinking about that, it was like, how can I stand next to the radiator without looking weird when everybody's sitting at the other corner of the room? And so then I just sort of wiggle step by step towards the radiator, and then usually nobody else will follow because they're sitting on the sofa at the other side of the room, and I'm just standing by a radiator all on my own, trying to still hold a conversation. So I'm yelling across the room. It's just the most simple thing, isn't it? It's just the simplest thing. It's actually just existing. All just so complicated when you have an eating disorder. Just everything about existing is a lot more complicated than... I don't know how I got anything done. I have all of that I had to think about. Standing against radiators the whole time, and standing against radiators in a way that people wouldn't necessarily notice that I was standing against the radiator and think I was weird. It's a surprise I got anything done. Anything else done. Probably why I didn't. Not really. Anyway, so anybody that's leaning against a radiator or sitting next to the forced air duct or just cold right now, go and eat a sandwich. Okay? Bye.